I'm preparing for tomorrow's podcast. I always post these on YouTube. And turn this down just a little bit. The podcast always goes up on YouTube, but I need to pre-record one, and I didn't want to mess with doing it on YouTube, so I can still post it tomorrow. So I'm going to do it here tonight. Already up to 10 viewers. Is anybody listening? Can anybody hear me? How's everybody doing tonight? Maybe kind of contradictory to do it this way, since it'll be up tomorrow, and if you're following me on one platform, you'll see it on another. But I just decided to try and mix it up at least a little bit. I didn't have a ton for Q&A stuff that came in, so I was like, well, I'll post it here and see if I can't farm some views that way. But I do have a couple of things that we'll talk about topic-wise. So I'm trying to record this in preparation for tomorrow, so I've got to remember not to try and make it seem like I'm interacting with someone live and confuse someone tomorrow. So let's see. No comments at all, though? Let's see. Okay, there we go. Getting everything ready to go here. And then we're just going to rip it. If y'all are here for it, you're here for it. Okay, thanks, Tip. I thought it was working, but I wasn't sure. You know, somebody's always got something to say on Facebook, so I figured I'd I'd try and see before I did half of this podcast and realized nobody could hear me. Let's see. What's up, Justin? How you doing, man? So this will be BP Hero Podcast, Season 6, Episode 15. If you're catching this on YouTube, it is April 29th, the day you're listening, but this is recorded the night before. I don't know if a lot of you guys caught the post or not, but I got some stuff going on tomorrow. I can't go live tomorrow, so I'm going to pre-record tonight and then post it onto the channel in the morning, which will be now for you guys. Have it up and everything for you. So just mixing it up just a little bit, but I did still have some topics and stuff I wanted to talk about and kind of run with from there. I think there was a couple that expected me to kind of dive in on last week's, podcast and respect topic that I dove down, but that's a rat hole we're not going to go down too many times at once for sure. I don't know. You can sometimes gain some judgment for things like that, so we're not going there for sure. Not too many times in a row, at least. So one thing I do want to talk about is now that we've gotten a chance to get in a little more action with some of these 240 bats. See, I have now swung the Juno MR1, the Juno Final Chapter, the Mikan Freak Primo Max Load, the Pure Integrity 2, and put a handful of swings on the new Nautilus. I feel like there's one more in there that I have forgotten as well, but regardless of the point, kind of my main takeaway so far is they're going to make you earn your hits. They are not as forgiving as like a 220 bat would be, which I also think has something to do with kind of the limited and restricted performance. It's going to be something that's not as forgiving, which in turn is going to mean the barrel's not going to flex as much, which is going to reflect to less performance, which is kind of, I think, what the general consensus is. But the thing is, like, if you can still hit with a 220 bat, you can still hit with a 240 bat. A hitter is a hitter no matter what, but it's going to eliminate. And I'm guilty of this myself. I'm not throwing shade at anyone. It's going to make you hit a good pitch. It's going to make you, take a disciplined at bat, because you've got to put a good swing on a good pitch. There's no more this golfing a ball 3 inches off the ground, in one hop of the fence. Like, you've got to hit a good pitch and put a good swing on it. Even this past weekend, I took a couple of swings at a ball I took one swing at a ball that was over my head, but I just kept my hands in and just kind of inside out at it and pushed it the other way, and it just kind of worked, because the bats are. I mean, the bat I was swinging this weekend is not passing compression. I was swinging a D2E Psycho. If you're an OG on the channel and remember me kind of raving about the Psychos back in the day, I actually gamed one for almost a whole season. Just like anything, people move on, just kind of bounce around to different bats. But I got the old Psycho back, the original D2E Psycho that I fell in love with and gamed for the whole year. I actually ended up getting back from the guy I bought it from, and it's well broken. It was broken in when I gave it to him, and it's well broken in now. So I'm glad to have that thing back for sure. I may do a little bit of a video on that. It's not in the best of conditions. I don't know how many swings it's going to have left in it, so I don't know that I'll be able to post like a big long video on it, but maybe just like a welcome back old friend kind of video. But anyway, so yeah, I think the main takeaway with the 240s is it's going to have to be something that you're going to have to apply yourself as a hitter. There's no more of the just touch it and watch it go kind of thing, where you're hitting a hard ball with a bat that's testing 170 like they all are these days, and just expect performance. It kind of falls back to like the 52-300 thing. That's why I like the 52-300. God, gross. Jeez. Since I am recording this at night, everybody's home. My wife just walked past me and accidentally, I shouldn't say accidentally, she just walked past me and sneezed. Blue germs all over the place. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's just like the 52-300. It's going to be one of those things that also makes you earn your hits. It's not a ball that's going to fly well in the heat, but as long as you can spin it, it'll still go when you need it to. And the same thing with the bats. Like, you just got to apply yourself as a hitter, and maybe even just going to make some of us a better hitter. I kind of realized, not that I have played anywhere that I have to swing 240s, but if I've got to shoot reviews with 240s and be conscious of the swings that I take, then I need to put in a little bit more effort to try and take some better rounds to get some better content. Not that Facebook or not that YouTube is a tryout or anything like that, but nobody wants to see a bunch of pop outs for a bat review. They want to see quality swings. So just something to make me apply myself a little better as a hitter, which is also a good thing. It's going to make you a better hitter altogether, no matter what bat you're swinging. So I am digging it so far. We'll kind of see as things move on here. I know that some people were having some issues with compression testing and durability. So far, of all of the bats that we've swung, we have had no durability issues. Probably the bat that's been the closest to the pass-fail line on my compression tester was the Freak Primo, and it started fairly low to begin with. I want to say it was between 265 and 270 on the tester, and we put about 50 to 60 swings on it with 52s, and then I want to say about 40 with some hard stuff, and it was testing right at the 250 to 255 mark. So, it's safe to say that, if you go out and put 200 to 300 swings on one of these bats with a Classic M or a Pro M, then don't be surprised to see it fail if you are barreling a ball or squaring a ball up a lot. But, I think that's also somewhere where the 52-300 can also be a benefit, is in BP. Just trying to keep some of these bats from breaking. Because, people buy these bats, they want to enjoy them. It's a thing with any of them. So, buy some 52 300s, like some game balls, or I really like the Evil BP 52 pluses for situations like that. It's a lot less temperature variant. Like you're going to get some really good performance in the heat and in the cool. And if you're hitting, out on a, whether it's been wet or, a dewy morning in the grass and everything else, it's not going to be a ball that picks up a lot of moisture. It's got a PVC, basically a synthetic plastic cover on it, and even the threads are synthetic, so it's not going to pick up any water. You can just wipe them off and go on. So something like that would be a big benefit for bats like that if you do want to enjoy them. If not, I think that's something else it was actually on my list to kind of talk about, was people that want to just BP and BP and BP these bats that fail compression in 200 swings. Like all these Eastons from the last 2 or 3 years, they want to buy one and BP it, put 500 swings on it. Then they're so mad when it broke and they got to buy another one. And for the prices you use bats these days, which is insane, by the way, I can't justify spending $200 to get 500 swings out of a bat. I mean, that's not even close to practical. Buy something cheap. Buy something, 75. Like if I'm looking for something that's specifically a BP bat, I'm not probably spending more than $75, maybe $100 tops if it's something that I really, really want. But you can get something like an older Easton, an older Louisville, like a Louisville Slugger Sonic Plus. I really liked the Easton Scott Kirby from 2015. It was one of those bats that was good and not great. Once you got just a little bit of the stink knocked off of it. And it's another one of those things where it's not going to be the super forgiving, the whole entire barrel is the sweet spot type of bat, like the bat you're probably gaming, but there's no harm in hitting something with a smaller sweet spot. It's going to do nothing but make you a better hitter. So you've got bats like the Louisville Slugger Sonic Plus. You've got bats like the 2015 Easton Scott Kirby. You could even go into the old stuff that was before the U-Trip thumb stamp and get something like a Worth Mayhem or a Mike and Recoil. Even some of the old Mike and Freaks, you can still find the Freak Limited some places. I mean, this list goes on and on and on of stuff you can grab to give you an option for something to hit in BP that's not going to break the bank, and it's something you can beat on and beat on and beat on. Like I have a 2013 Easton L5, and I would safely say that thing's got close to 3,000 swings on it. Hitting pretty much just golf balls. Like during the wintertime when we're taking BP, I may go out and hit some of the newer stuff just to enjoy it, or just to kind of get a feel for it, or maybe if it's something I am shooting review, kind of earlier in the year, then I'm not looking to hit a ton of hard stuff, so I'll hit 52s with whatever might be closer to game status, or like I said, any of the newer stuff, and then it's pretty much all no holds barred when it comes to hitting that L5 in the cold. I'll hit whatever. We do have a handful of, when I say a handful, I mean like 5 or 6 44 525s in the bag, but everything else is pretty much just Pro M's, Classic M's. There's some BP rockets. There's a handful of the Platinum dots in there, and that's the stuff that I'll beat on with that L5 and not even think twice about it. It is kind of funny to see like the gap in performance though, just because it's not that it's a bad bat, it's just a bat that takes so long to break in. Even being a thumbprint stamp. Easton went through kind of a funky transition there when they went to the new stamp bats. They just had a hard time making anything that could really contend with like the Worth and the Mikan, a little bit of the Louisville stuff, and even some of the combat stuff. The combat stuff was, I still say it to this day, the combat stuff was just ahead of their time, because everybody used to rip on combats for breaking in 200 swings, and they don't hold up, and they're this and they're that, and literally that's every freaking 220 bat on the market for the last 2 or 3 years. It's something that can't be beat on a whole lot. It's something that's going to be game ready almost instantly, and you can't take a ton of BP with it. Combat was just ahead of their time, and that sucks, but it is what it is. But even some of the older combats, talking clear back to the pre-thumb stamp era, they had a lot of durable combats back then too. So I mean, the choices for something that you could buy and just beat to death are almost unlimited if you're willing to buy something that is cheap and it's not going to perform quite like your gamer, but at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if you're hitting something that's not a freaking bazooka every time you step in the box in BP. Let's see. What do we got for... I got to dig out my list here. I had it pulled up and then my phone closed on me. You know, one thing, I did want to talk about is, I kind of grazed over the topic of used bats earlier. I don't understand why the market has just gone absolutely nuts. And at the end of the day, the guys that defend themselves and justify spending that money are the ones that say, it's my money, I'll buy the bats. If you don't like it, piss off. Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. You can spend your money however you want to, but people spending $300 on a bat that has a fair amount of use to it, but because Facebook says it's hot, because Facebook says it's hyped, because it's a certain brand, to me that's just kind of insane. It's in turn, it's made everything else pricing wise go up. That's kind of the crazy thing is, the price of everything else has gone up in turn. And the other thing that doesn't help is these newer mapper gems that people keep digging out from places, which, some people do buy that stuff as a little bit of an investment. And just from kind of being in the ins and outs of Facebook and bats and everything else, I 100% know it's a thing for people to go out, buy a bat, find out, hey, this bat's not bad, and then stockpile a bunch of them, wait for the relevance to kind of go away, and then start hyping and hyping and hyping and hyping. Well, next thing you know, everybody wants one, and you can make $50, $60 a bat on them. I know for a fact that's a thing. I've talked to people that do it. And again, that's kind of one of those more power to them type of things. But there's no need for that, because pretty much anything from 2017 up until last year that's had the U-Trip thumb stamp on it is foolproof. Like if you can't find a bat in those 3 years of production in just about any brand, really, and I mean it, just about any brand, if you can't find a bat that fits you, maybe it's time to play golf. I don't mean to be so blunt about it, but really that's the only way to call it is there is something out there for everyone, and you don't have to spend a fortune to have it. I don't quite understand. The only thing I can think of is why the prices have gone nuts is raffles, because everybody wants something for nothing. And again, the whole raffle thing is another thing too. But everybody wants something for nothing. Everybody likes to live vicariously and gamble and do that kind of thing, and that's their fix. That's their way of doing that. You can spend $40 on a raffle and buy 2 spots in raffle, or these days, God, sometimes it's even 1 spot if it's the right bat. Spend that money, and if you win your bat, well then you just won that. You spent $40, you win this bat that just raffled for a total of $800, because again, people don't really look and see like, that's a $200 bat this dude's raffling for $800. They look at it and see, I could potentially get a bat for $30 or $40. That's the only thing that people process, and if that's the way they want to look at that, that's fine, but to me that's just a bit of insanity. But these guys that are raffling that stuff and getting away with it, more power to them, because people will line up for that stuff until it is no longer a thing. Everybody wants something for nothing, and that is a true testament to that. So I do think that that's another reason that, like, the gyms are so much more of a desirable thing, and in turn that's made the price of everything else go up, because people want something similar to a gym that's not the gym, so they don't have to pay $400 for it. And the next thing you know, every price of every bat has damn near gone up. Like, there used to be a day when you could go out and spend, say, I got $150 to buy a bat. What do you got? And I'm not saying that that's still not a thing that you can't get a bat for that price, but the selection is definitely not as good as it used to be. I mean, you could, get a new and wrapper no return, for $150 a lot of places back in the day. And these days, people are getting $250 out of them because somebody's just going to buy it and rifle it for $300. That's the other thing that makes the bat pricing weird is, I say I've got a new and wrapper bat. I charge somebody $400 for it. Well, it's something that's popular, and it's something that somebody that's running a raffle page knows is going to move well. Then they can buy it for $400, and it's no skin off their back because they're going to turn around and raffle it for 800. They don't lose. Nobody loses in this situation. I've made my killing on the bat, and they're going to make theirs. It's just kind of insane that the bat market has come to that. You're almost better off just buying retail and going on about your day, which I never thought that I would see the day that I would say something like that. What's up, Sammy? How you doing? Hey, Q. So I never thought that would be the day that I would say something like that, because half of what got this channel started way back in the day was kind of like searching for bargains, searching for good stuff, searching for the bat that a lot of people may not know about. Kind of I was anti-hype. I had to find the right phrase there. I was anti-hype. Like, people going out and hyping these bats and doing the same thing that's happening now. Prices skyrocketing and everything else. But I was anti-hype. I was the guy that was going to go out and find the bat that didn't make you spend, an insane amount of money and still have that same performance. So it was something to save money, and maybe not something to like make yourself go buy a bat for retail prices. But it's just kind of the day and age, and that's where things have evolved to. So you just got to find a way to adapt and move on. Sammy wants to know why all of the 240 bats are not holding compression here in the Facebook chat. And really, like I said, I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'll answer your question just in case you weren't here. So we haven't had a ton of issues with 240 bats so far. I've hit maybe 5 or 6 of them and haven't had any issues so far. I think it's just a matter of the approach you're taking. What are you hitting? What kind of balls are you hitting? What kind of temps are you hitting in? Because we haven't had any issues. Every bat we've hit so far, we've put through about 50 or 60 52 300s, and then a little bit of hard stuff too, just to kind of gauge, what it's going to do. Because like, these bats have such a bad reputation for their durability because people believe everything they read, and until I know different, like, I've got to kind of like believe that. But that's, again, like, I'm here to kind of set the record straight, or maybe even shed a little bit of a different light on an issue like that. So 50, 60 swings of the 52 300s is what we're doing now, and then about 40-ish with some hard stuff. And the closest bat we've had to failing is around the 250 to 255 mark. And I'm curious to see, I don't want to get too carried away with bats that aren't mine, but I'm curious to see if the 240 bats, because everybody says that they drop and then they hover. They'll stay around the 245, the 250 mark and stay there for a while before they end up failing. I'm kind of interested to see if that is actually going to be a thing. So my BP partner in the picture in a ton of my videos, my man Brian, he actually went out. Everybody say thanks to Brian. He went out and bought a Freak 23, and we're going to put that thing through the ringer. We are going to pretty much just hit it with nothing but hard stuff and kind of see what happens with it, so we can at least see and get an idea, and put a couple rounds on it, test it, put a couple rounds on it and test it, just to kind of gauge, like, is it going to drop and stay, or is it going to fail miserably? And I think it would also be a good opportunity to maybe just go full send with the hard stuff right off the jump and see what happens. So I do know that there was a few people within the bat company saying, start it with some 52 300s to get kind of the outer layers loosened up, and then you can hit it with hard stuff. Like I said, that might have just been them trying to save product, which, I'm not saying I wouldn't do the same thing, but it's this theory that, like I said, I'm not brave enough to go out and do that to someone else's bat, but if it's a bat that is meant for that purpose and no other, it's easy to get away with and just kind of send it and see what happens. So that's what we're going to do. I ordered that. It should be here pretty soon, and we're going to start I guess you could call it the break-in phase on that, and start wailing away on it and see what happens with it. So I'll be sure and update that on the channel and on the Facebook page and everything else, because I'm sure that's going to be an interesting topic, is how long are these things going to last? So I did have just a couple of Q&As here that I'll go ahead and cover, because I did post since I was doing this. Sometimes it's easy to when I first started doing the podcast, I would have to have a list of topics and like, and I kind of sit down and like prepare myself for the podcast. But anymore, like I can just sit down and just talk. You know, when I do these on YouTube in the mornings when everybody's expecting me to be on, people show up. You know, we're pulling in a consistent amount of viewers every week, and it's just about the same guy, which is really cool too. It's the same guys almost every week, which is awesome. And sorry, squirrel, I was reading something. So, which is pretty cool, and it kind of helps like me flow as well, because I can kind of talk about some things that they're bringing up, or kind of interact with their chat a little bit while we're on YouTube doing this, and it makes it easy to where I don't have to have like a list of topics and that kind of thing. I can have just a couple of things, and then roll that into damn near a whole podcast by the time, you know, I see what they're talking about in the comments and interact with that. Then it can bring up some other stuff that, you know, I may just want to talk about. It's literally just me sitting here just having conversation with, I guess you could say myself. I'm interacting with the chat, but just kind of me being a mind purge, you know, just getting everything out there. If it comes to mind, I talk about it. And it seems to be working really well, but I haven't did that in a while, so I needed to make sure I had something just to have a little bit of a podcast here. We're not going to go too long. I'm thinking maybe depending on how these topics go, and, you know, like I said, segues and things rolling in, or if somebody on Facebook here does have something they want to add, then I can throw it in there. But I'm looking to shoot for about the 45-minute mark, because I do have to get a few things done before I leave for work tonight. So we're going to dive into the Q&A and kind of see where things go from there. So let's see. So on YouTube, I posted this on YouTube, reaching out for some Q&A, and Jason B wants to know, what are your thoughts on wearing a pitching mask for co-ed league night? I had a guy last week give me grief for wearing one, then proceeded to blast one about 3 feet over my head. I told him that's why I wear it. Just wanted to hear your thoughts about not wanting to die even during the league nights. Love the podcast, brother. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed the podcast. And Christian James, what's going on, man? How you doing? And you know, kind of when it comes to the pitch, we were just talking about this in a group chat with some friends of mine, as far as like the pitching and safety, the safety standpoint of pitching when it comes to wearing a mask and stuff like that. And I do think the argument can be made that at times pitching in league can almost be more sketchy than pitching to a tournament team. If you're playing tournament ball, more than likely you've got some experience under your belt. You know what you're doing in the batter's box to an extent, and you've got a little bit of control to know at least what your plan is with your approach to hitting. So, you know, you can kind of be predictable. You can kind of see, is a pitcher, if you pitched enough, you can kind of like see how a batter loads up and wants to hit a ball, and you can prepare for that. But sometimes when you're playing in league, and it's no offense to anybody out there, I mean, if you don't want to practice, you just want to show up and play league, do it. Who cares? But know that sometimes that can lead to yourself being a little bit of a loose cannon at times. And, you know, I've pitched to a couple of those loose cannons where, you know, they just go up there and just swing hard, man. It's see ball, hit ball, not even trying to put it somewhere. It's literally just swing hard in case you hit it is what I tell people, and that's what they do. I've been caught off guard a couple different times by balls that were hit right back at me that I thought 100% like releasing the pitch thinking, all right, it's inside, they're not going to swing. And next thing I know, I've either got a bullet going past my head or I'm knocking something down that I wasn't ready for. So I think that wearing a mask anywhere you go isn't a bad thing. Like if people take offense to it or whatever else, then, you know, that's on them. Like you've got to worry about you. We were playing in a tournament this past weekend, and it's a long story. I'll get to it a little bit here in a minute because that's another one of our Q&A things. One of my current teammates was on the other team, and he was out there pitching, and you know, John's a good athlete. He's got good hands. He's everything. He checks all the boxes for a good ball player. But man, it's just kind of one of those things, like you just never know, especially when it comes to, you know, some guys hitting the ball hard and being in a tournament. sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If a pitch is thrown outside, you can try and work around a pitcher as much as you want, and sometimes the pitcher still ends up getting hit. And it's kind of one of those situations where you need a mask. I begged him the first time. We ended up playing him twice that day, and I begged him the first time to wear my mask, and he wouldn't. And the second time he did, and he didn't have anything hit at him either time. But it's just the fact of knowing you're safe, knowing that man is safe, knowing I'm safe when I'm on the mound. And I will say I have let my guard down before in some of the co-ed leagues and not worn a mask. And it seems like it's every single time it's a thing that you don't go out there and wear your mask and you get a ball hit back at you. I've even took one off the chin one time. It was a one hop, but I took it off the chin. It was another deal where I threw the ball, thought there's no way in hell this person's swinging at it. Because I think it might have, if I remember correctly, I know what league it was and everything. I threw the pitch. It was a 3-1 pitch, and I'm sitting here thinking, this person ain't swinging. It's 3-1. And next thing I know, here comes a one-hopper back at me, and I wear it right off the chin because dude didn't want to walk. And that's fine. It's whatever. Like, that's your agenda when you come to league is you want to hit, you don't want to walk. That's whatever. But that's another situation where, if somebody's in the mentality that they don't want to walk and that's something you're not ready for, they're up there hacking, there you are. Yeah, Adam, this is live. I decided to just run this live on here tonight, really just to kind of mix it up a little bit and kind of see how it went. Use it as a little bit of an experiment because I will be posting this on YouTube in the morning. And I thought if I'm sitting here talking, I might as well try and go live with it. So just kind of like maybe two birds, one stone thing. I can kind of see how this goes interaction-wise. And I can still throw it up on YouTube in the morning, which is where a majority of the podcast crowd is going to be and expecting that content in the morning. Nick says, at least you knew it might be coming, but not when Matt Allen hits through BP nets. Yeah, it's always, that's what made me learn to always defend yourself, even if you're behind a net. You're talking about getting hit with things. Always be ready for a ball to come through the net. Like anymore, I completely turn away. Like I used to just like kind of turn my head to the side. I guess just like one of those things, you look away from something, but doing that ended up costing me a couple of my teeth and some broken bones in my mouth. So it's a deal now. You at least put your hand up. Put your hand up, completely turn your back, do something to make sure that you're not just going to get absolutely nuked. D-Ray says, melted. You are right. And Eric wonders when masks will be required for all pitchers. I really think it should be a thing in tournament ball now. I really do, especially with the technology of the bats today, which, we talked about the 240 thing earlier. But if they're not required, I doubt very many people are going to swing them. But even then, there's nothing saying you can't hit a ball hard. There's nothing saying that you can't hit a bro-in ball hard with a 240 bat, because all a 240 bat is a composite bat that tests at 240. That's still a good performing bat. It's just not as good as a bat that tests at 180, which these 240s should not. The 240s should get below compression and break, which, the 220s are supposed to do the same thing. But, it's a deal where if you're not testing, you don't have those regulations or requirements or anything, like it should really be a thing, because between the performance of the ball, the performance of the bat, and as the game is evolving, the game is getting more and more good athletes. And especially as you work up into the higher levels, you're getting more and more former collegiate athletes, a little bit of minor league ball players coming into play there. Those are all very good athletes who can hit a ball very hard. And some people just do not care. They're there to do nothing but win. And if the pitcher's in the way, the pitcher's in the way. And like, there's working around a pitcher, and then there's just not caring. And there are certain situations where you can take the swing that you just don't care if the game is on the line or that kind of thing like that. But first game of the day, I'm not looking to just rip some pitcher's lips off. But, some people feel otherwise, and that's their prerogative. They can do whatever they want. But for a multitude of reasons, I think that pitching masks should be required in tournament ball already. And I know that's a very unpopular opinion. And the unpopular opinion of playing on the side of safety, player side of safety, is kind of an unpopular thing. But that's just how I feel about the game. Like, you can play the game without getting hurt. and you can play the game without worrying if you're going to get hurt. Like, you shouldn't step on the mound and think, shit, here we go. Like, I'm going to get dotted playing this team. It's just a matter of time and a matter of who it's going to be and a matter of when. Yeah, and D-Ray says it, and you said it 100% like spot on. You also have to know where you are. There's hitting middle and blowing up the pitcher. They are two different things 100%. And, you know, you could get into the malicious intent of hitting a pitcher, and that's also a thing. I will say, knock on wood, and hopefully I'm not part of one, I haven't seen a good middle war in a while. Not that I want to see one anytime soon, but you just did get me thinking about that. And maybe that comes with, like, knowing somebody could get really hurt. Who knows? But I haven't seen a good one in quite a while. But there is also that side of things too. Like, to me, if I'm working through the middle of the field on a tournament Sunday, or a tournament, I don't know why I said Sunday, on a tournament Saturday, I'm working through the middle of the field. I'm really and ideally looking to hit a ball over the pitcher's head or at the pitcher's feet, because that's the guy that's closest to me that I can get a ball by, especially if they're playing a four-man. All I got to do is get the ball past one person, I'm on base. Now, there's a difference between that and just going head high on a pitcher because you feel like it. And either one of those instances, especially, you got some hitters that are just so good at inside-outing a ball. I can sit here, I won't, but I can sit here and name a handful of people off the top of my head that no matter where you throw them, they can hit the ball back up the middle. And it's not with intent. It's just, like I said, that's the closest fielder that you've got to get a ball past to be on base. I've thrown guys high and inside thinking, like, maybe because it's just kind of one of those things. Like, that's what they're known for. Again, not maliciously hitting at a pitcher. It's just they're known for working through the middle. They're known for working the right center gap or working backside. So you just try and do anything to throw them off their game as a pitcher. You know, you throw that pitch in thinking, like, high and inside, like, got you this time, buddy. And next thing you know, it's burning by your feet again. It's just some people are just impossible to pitch to when it comes to stuff like that. And that's the two differences of hitting middle. Like, he's hitting at my feet to get on base. You know, it's not malicious. He's not trying to hurt anybody. He's trying to get on base to help his team win. But there is also a difference in going at someone's feet, going over their head, and then just not caring and going, you know, head and chest high as hard as you can. And maybe you take those swings, you know, you give a little less regard to where that swing goes. If the game is on the line, if it's towards the end of the tournament, you know, you're creeping towards a championship game, maybe you give a little less regard to those swings. And as a pitcher, you should understand that's going to happen. But it's just like D-Ray said, there's a time and a place for it. You got to know where you are and what you're doing. I don't know. I sometimes I get on a tangent with a little bit of that stuff when it comes to pitchers and hit middle and that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm kind of big on player safety, and I don't know why. I don't know what changed that. I don't even know if it's so much player safety as much as it is players just kind of using equipment that's going to make them earn what they're doing. You know, like I said, the 52-300s, the 240 bats, bats that pass compression, that kind of thing. I've joked around. I've got a compression tester, thanks to my guy Eric's son here. Sent me one a couple years ago, and it's been a big benefit to the channel. I can't thank that guy enough for sending that out to us, so we can be able to log some of this data and kind of understand what these bats are doing as they break in. And I've always kind of joked around about holding a tournament, you know, like the BP Hero Classic or whatever you want to call it, holding a tournament and compression testing bats, just for an added element. But that would be such a thing that people wouldn't show up. I feel like, anyway. I feel like people wouldn't show up just because the bats are being tested. And, you know, it's just people look at all that stuff kind of different. But I think it would be just, again, an added element to the game where, you know, it's something that's going to make you earn it. It would be something where we would hit a hard ball, because the 52-300 ball, in my opinion, relies way more on how it's hit than what it's hit with. And I talk about that a little bit in the Juno Athletics video I did with the final chapter bat that I just posted on YouTube a couple days ago, where it's kind of one of those things that the 52-300, like, it felt really good off the bat, because the ball is forgiving, so the bat doesn't have to be. And yes, a bat that tests 170 is still going to hit a 52 better than a bat that tests 240, but that performance gap is nowhere near as big as it was if you were hitting a hard ball. The harder the ball, the more you're going to see that gap in performance be a thing. And so it would be a deal where maybe you have bats tested 220, 240, whatever the number was you decided on it. It's really irrelevant. And then, let them hit something like a Pro-M, since you're going to restrict. See, and that's the other place where the Pro-M kind of comes into play with the U-Trip side of things, is the Pro-M was supposed to be a little bit better of a ball for the bats that were supposed to be kind of dulled down a little bit. Well, the Pro-M started trickling their way into, all the other facets of U-Trip, and now it's, we're hitting Pro-M balls with 220 bats. You just gave a dude swinging a lightning rod an even better ball to hit. But maybe if you're going to do what you can to restrict bat performance, the Pro-M ball would be a better fit there. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, so my wife, I'm sitting here, she's in the room with me, and I'm sitting here talking about, like players, like being ready for anything at league. And that's what she said. Her knee can attest to not skimping on league nights for the league hero type guys. That again falls back to, you never know when you're going to get hurt doing something. You got one guy that always wants to try too hard, or the one guy that'll slide into anybody no matter what. I'm not even going to get started on that rant. It's yeah. Anyway, we're going to change topics. But anyway, she's 100% right though. You just never know what to expect, and that's, it's not just on the pitcher's mound. It's, guys running balls out. It's guys sliding into people. It's guys yelling at umpires. It's guys doing whatever they can to win, because that's just the mentality that they have. If they play nothing but league ball and they're hungry, that's just their chance to go and get it out. Go somewhere on Saturday and use that same intensity. And it has nothing to do with, them being a bad person for doing that. But if you're that hungry to win, go play on Saturday and compete with somebody. Hang on here. So my phone's blowing up. Everybody's like, where are you at? Where are you at? Well, I'm kind of busy right now. I know you can hear those notifications going off in the background. But everybody's wanting to know why I'm not answering my phone. Well, it's because I'm a little busy. So I think the only other question per se that we had, see, we're up to 15 viewers now. Look at us go. I think the only other question from the live Q&A that I had was, we got a little bit more coming in here. No, Eric, I do not watch wrestling. That's a Gabe thing. That's not a me thing. I'm not a wrestling guy. I used to when I was a kid. I used to be a big fan of wrestling, and I used to watch a lot of it. Dude, Scott Steiner was my favorite wrestler ever. Dude was absolutely jacked. Big Papa Pump. If you know, you know. Dude was absolutely yoked. I liked watching him and all the NWO guys. Used to be big into that stuff, but I don't anymore. And I've got some friends that are still big into the wrestling stuff. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, everyone's like, oh, it's wrestling is fake. It's childish. It's whatever. I mean, are you telling me that everything you watch is 100% real and isn't fake or anything like that? You got people watching science fiction TV shows and you want to judge a guy because he wants to watch wrestling? Get out of here. I'm 100% for people that watch wrestling. Stone Cold Steve Austin's another one. But I'm 100% here for people that watch wrestling. It's just not really my cup of tea anymore. And then Eric says, talk about the tournament I played in this last weekend. So if you saw on Facebook, we always go live for our tournament games, and we were at Lake at the Ozarks this weekend playing in basically a fundraiser tournament for the firefighters there. And it was kind of a crap show of a day. I've got a vlog. I'm actually going to start working on that a little bit tonight. and getting all the content ready to go for that. I've got everything recorded. I've got everything here on the computer, and I'm going to start knocking out that tonight, editing-wise, and hopefully get it finished up tomorrow. We'll kind of look and see what's going on with things. But we get there. So it rained a lot. If you live in the area, you know, it rained a lot this past week, and tried to this weekend a little bit, this past weekend a little bit. And let's see, I got up, our first game was at 9 o'clock. I was going to ride down with my friend Quentin, who's in the chat here on Facebook right now. I was going to ride down with him, and he played at 8. So like, all right, well, we're going to leave super early. I got up at like 5:15 in the morning to make sure that, you know, I was up and ready and everything else. And we knew rain was kind of in the forecast, was a possibility. Sorry, I had to talk some trash on Facebook. We knew rain was a possibility, but, you know, it's one of those things where you got to get up and at least be ready for the day. So we got up early. Q was going to come get me from my house. And then anytime I'm riding with anybody and it's really early in the morning, I always like try and drop a message or drop a phone call. Just like, you know, hey, you up? You know, just kind of checking on you kind of thing. And I sent him a text message. He didn't answer me. I waited like 10 more minutes and he didn't answer me. Or I called him, waited 2 more minutes to call him, and he didn't answer me. And I was starting to sweat. You know, our manager was up, so I texted him. I was like, hey, is the tournament still on? He's like, yeah, as far as I know. And then Q calls me like right after that. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, you know, I'm just kind of dragging my feet. Think we're going to have a rain delay this morning. I'm like, man, don't say that. So I'm going to meet you there, and we're going to go. He's like, yeah, cool. So right after that phone call, he texts me and says, oh, yeah, 2-hour rain delay. Like crap. So now instead of him playing at 8, he plays at 10. We've got time to kill. That was our first mistake of the day. We should have went back to bed. He should have came here and we should have went to sleep and got some more sleep instead of getting up at 5 in the morning and then just suffering through the day. But we go and make a little bit of a morning out of it. You'll see in the vlog. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the entire thing because it's most of the vlog. But we get there. There's a 2-hour rain delay. And then they push it back another hour while we're sitting there. And then they ended up pushing it back another hour. So first game was supposed to be at 8. Then it was at 10. Then it was at 11. And then at 11:15, they come out and say, all right, well, we're just going to play on the fields. Everybody sign waivers. No, you know, so if anybody gets hurt, because the thing was the field's not being in good condition for player safety. The park didn't want people getting hurt. And then they decided 11:15, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and play. We're going to chalk the fields. We're going to play at noon. It's a 60-degree day. The sun is not out, and it's still misting. The field was not going to get better in a window of 45 minutes. We should have just started right then and there. But, you know, that's their deal. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to give the field every chance it could to get better. And lo and behold, you know, we started playing at noon. Everybody sat around for another 45 minutes kind of staring at each other. But lo and behold, we played at noon. And by the time the people started playing on the fields, digging into the dirt and getting things stirred up, the field started getting better, which is kind of what I predicted would happen. And I didn't go say anything to like the tournament directors of the park or anything like that. But just from my experience in working in a ball field and doing all that stuff, the best thing for those fields would be to get on them and get them turned over because there's dry dirt underneath there. Everything was dry underneath it because all the rain we just had was fresh. So get out there and get them turned over, and they'll get to looking better and everything else. But, you know, it's one of those things. They were worried about player safety, and I 100% get that. Like I said, I was just talking about that earlier. But anyway, so that was a bit of an adventure. It was a 4-hour rain delay. And for whatever reason, there was, I think, 12 teams in the lower bracket. And because we signed up, they decided to do an upper bracket. And I don't know how or what who went into the upper bracket, but it's only 4 teams on one field. It was a fun day. We ended up taking second place in the tournament. Like I said, the second out of the 4 teams there. It was a good day of softball. I think we ended up getting 4 games in, and you know that's my ideal day of softball. You go get a handful of games in, and head home. Still home I think we got home at midnight, which is way better than some of the other tournaments that I've gotten home from, as far as you know, what time you get home and that kind of thing. So it was a good day of softball. I had a good time seeing my friends. I had a good time playing ball. You really couldn't ask for much more out of the day. I'm not going to sit here and talk about it all because I want you to watch the vlog that it's going to be posted hopefully maybe tomorrow night, maybe Friday. It'll be done soon, though. I promise you. But I think that's going to wrap it up for the podcast here. I got to get this done and get ready for work. Hit that 45, 50-minute mark I was shooting for. So if you are stopping in and watching this on Facebook as it's live, I appreciate you guys stopping in. And if you're listening to this on YouTube the next day from me recording this, appreciate you stopping in and checking this out as well. We'll be live again next week. I'll go live on YouTube every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Central. If this is something that interests you and you want to come over, head over to YouTube, subscribe, turn on the notifications so your phone goes off when I go live if you don't remember. Or you can set yourself a reminder, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you get there next week. Sweetheart, in case you hit it, and I'll see you guys then.